Greetings, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk about DragonMech. Look at that cover. It's a wonderful picture. And you can see it's from Sword Sorcery for the D20 system from Goodman Games. This was a request after I showed it during one of my tour videos. I've actually been getting a number of them, and as I can get around to them, I'll see if I can do some of them. And this particular book was very interesting to me because it does, in fact, combine fantasies with mechs. And that's a pretty cool combination. Because, frankly, I've always thought that mechs were pretty silly when it came to science fiction, because, let's face it, a pit trap pretty much makes a mech pointless. And that holds true for fantasy as well, but I find the fantasy world a little less silly when it comes to mechs than I do with science fiction. The basic storyline behind this is that the world of High Point is undergoing a cataclysmic disaster. The moon is growing ever closer, to the point where particles from the moon are literally raining down upon the world, flensing anything that is unfortunate enough to be caught in them alive. And if the lunar rain particles weren't bad enough, the moon is populated by aberrations of any number of types, and they are dropping either by accident or by inclination onto the world, including the lunar dragons. And they are scouring the world flat. In response to this, people realizing that if you stay in one spot, you are doomed, people have found ways of protecting themselves. And they have done this by creating the DragonMechs. Now, the DragonMechs vary from anything large size up to things so huge they could have 100 levels inside them and house entire cities, the city mechs. And there are numerous mechs in between those two ranges. So you have these great walking behemoths moving across the landscape from place to place so that no one is ever at risk from lunar rains by staying in one spot. And of course, with this kind of a situation, resources are tight, and conflicts are inevitable, and so sometimes the DragonMechs go to war with each other. Sometimes with the aberrations, and sometimes with the other city mechs. And set against this entire backdrop, you have the heroes who are trying to survive. They could just be out there trying to make ends meet, or they could be trying to find the solution to why the moon is growing closer, how to stop it, and potentially how to reverse it. So you can go a very small scale campaign or a very big broad campaign, and they could be done out on the surface in smaller mechs, or it could be done within a city mech, having an entire urban campaign inside a city that moves. Now, one of the things that stood out to me in this particular book is the illustrations. The illustrations are just wonderful. They really are top-notch. And I was deeply impressed by the fact that everything in this book has the appearance of being painted. It's not just a sketch, it's not just a simple drawing. There's a real depth and quality to the art in this book. And I applaud the artist who, was it Niram Ansin? Or Niram, two different people, I'm not sure. But excellent work. So we have a bit on characters, character motivations, and races in DragonMech. You have your humans, dwarves, elves, gnomes, half-elves, half-orcs, and halflings. That's the standard races. They also talk about other races in the game. There's a little monster section in the back. They also talk about adapting existing character classes to the world, because obviously the world is different, significantly different. Then they talk about new core classes, the Clockwork Ranger, a variant of Ranger that lives in the clockwork forests within the mechs themselves. A cog layer, obviously some kind of technician. A constructor, which is a variant wizard. The mech jockey, a pilot of mechs. Stalker, a variant rogue. And a steamborg, which is a picture I just showed you. Someone that has actually infused the steam technology of the mechs into their bodies. Then we have new prestige classes. Anklebiter, Assimilated, which is all about becoming a steamboard. Gear Right, becoming very good at technology. A mech devil, being the best pilot you could possibly be. A Rift Walker, someone that actually slips between the dimensions. Steam Mage, which is a variant of a magic user, obviously. And a Vessel of Dodrak, which I believe... I can't remember what that is off the top of my head. I apologize. I read it yesterday and it's just slipping out. Then we have spell variants, all kinds of different things about the spell lists that in the game, and of course spells themselves specific to the campaign. And then we have steam power. So this game does use steampunk technology, and they have a powered system, a point-based system to help run it. Then we talk about mechs, and the mechs are like 70 pages in this book are talking about the mechs. And if you are a gearhead and you like technology in your games, whether it's science fiction or fantasy or science fantasy, and you really like getting into the minutiae of building things, this section is going to be wonderful to you. It's kind of like the BattleTech, tech manuals that I showed off in one of my videos. Excellent stuff here, and again, very well illustrated. Then you talk about equipment, which is the general, the kind of things that are unique to the world. Then they get into the gazetteer of the world itself, talking about all the places that still exist, the places, how they defend themselves against the lunar rain and the aberrations. They talk about a creature section, campaigning in the world. They do a particular section on one city mech as an example of what a city mech would be like. Obviously, that's probably going to be where your campaign may start if you're going to do a city mech campaign. Then an index and tables. Now, some of the things that are interesting about this is that some of the people in the world, realizing that the surface is now unlivable, have gone underground. So now there are conflicts as all these surface dwellers are pushing their way into the Underdark. And of course, all the people in the Underdark are suddenly finding themselves in conflict with all these surface dwellers who are not prepared to live in the Underdark. So you've got a lot of refugee status, and you've got established races trying to defend their territories or taking advantage of the fact that these new people are here and they don't understand the ropes. So there's a lot of different ways you could play this. I found that this is a very rich setting. It's got a lot of depth to it. I mean, there are a number of supplements. I think I own at least one, potentially two. The one I do have, I believe, is quite good. I'll eventually get to it. It's a softbound. It's in one of my magazine holders. But if you like mechs and you like fantasy, this is a book that you're definitely going to want to check out. I will admit that after a while, I'm seeing that 3.5 has certain limitations. I would be happier if someone had done a Pathfinder version of DragonMech. I think that would be a better fit for me. But I'm going to be completely honest here. The book I reviewed recently, Radiance, which is set in a pseudo-Victorian environment with electrotech and steam power tech, and has a more streamlined version of D20, but with huge amounts of options, I think is tailor-made to this setting. You could take the fluff from this book and use Radiance as the rules, as the crunch, and I think you would get a perfect fit, and you would have, I think, a little more meshing, if you will. The gears would connect a little bit better. Get a gears, like Steam Deck. Than 3.5 does with this particular setting. So, again, if you like mechs and you like fantasy and you like well-produced products that have excellent art, good background information, I can't recommend DragonMech enough.